lapunio, a poza gorą.
Missive 8. The Honest Poor. Miss Jessie, with weary feet, trod the muddy cement sidewalk to her lessons after school. Every day she tutored Alina and Niku in English lessons. Some days she felt exhausted looking down the long, bumpy street after panting up the hill just before it. Yet the children had to learn, and they really did enjoy their young teacher. At last she approached the hunter green house with white shutters. Turning the unyielding knob on the heavy iron gate, Miss Jessie entered the courtyard where Alina's family lived. A fluffy little dog ran up to greet her. Yapping excitedly, she almost shook with pleasure to see the visitor. A chow with darker fur wriggled in anticipation. Miss Jessie patted both heads before stepping through the doorway into the mudroom. Removing her tall, muddy leather boots, the teacher heard a cheerful voice. "Ciao, Jessie. Che fac? Hi, hi." Alina's mother, Elena, affectionately pulled Miss Jessie inside the warm little house. "It is my teacher," cried Alina excitedly. "Come, Niku. We must sit at the table. Miss Jessie, you want tea?" Miss Jessie smiled down at her student, who was a miniature of her congenial mother. "Oh, that would be very nice." "Mamma, facci Jessie chai," she called, running into the kitchen. Soon Jessie was settled snugly with her students around the small wooden table where the family ate their meals. "Hi, Jessie," Unca said with a grin. She plopped herself down on the sofa beside the table with a heavy history book. "I have to study for a test. I do not like it." She grimaced. Miss Jessie laughed. "Well, try your best anyway. All right now, children. Get out your notebooks and write your words neatly." The hour passed by quickly. Each child took turns reading the word lists and stories, stopping when their teacher corrected them. Miss Jessie relied heavily on the translator on her computer to help her explain the grammar. The children were quick to learn, though, and when Niku did not understand, Alina adeptly interpreted in Romanian. "Very good, children. You worked hard today," Miss Jessie praised them. "Now, can we play game?" begged Alina, her eyes shining. "Yes, game!" joined in Niku, jumping up and reaching as far as he could for the game box on top of the cupboard. "Let's play Don't Unca cum sa zicie." Alina looked to her big sister to find out the name of the game in English. "Don't get mad, brother," said Unca. "Yes, let's play Don't Mad Brother. I'm yellow," Alina yelled when Niku brought the game. She snatched the piece from the box. After another hour passed, Jessie looked at the clock. "I'm afraid I have to go. I need to visit Sister Revieka yet." "Oh, you stay and eat. You are hungry," Alina cried. "Mamma, Jessie este fame." Immediately, Elena set a bowl of steaming ciorba down in front of Jessie. Helpless to protest, she thanked her hostess and spooned the indescribably satisfying bowl of soup into her mouth. It was a thin broth of meat juice, tomato juice, and water, with various vegetables and bits of meat. But the taste was so good and unusual, sour, sweet, spicy, all at once. Only after she finished the soup did the family reluctantly let her go. Feeling warmed and refreshed, Miss Jessie crossed the sludgy street to Sora Revieka's house. Many times when she would head home after lessons, Niku walked beside her. He had learned to respect his American teacher after the chase down the street, and eagerly found ways to gain her approval. Often he carried her bag of books as they walked along, chatting, until they parted at the muddy little street where Niku lived, called Munten. But today Miss Jessie walked in the opposite direction. Revieka's ornately carved black iron gate was always a curiosity to Jessie, and she never tired of looking at all the pictures in the bars. Turning the knob, she stepped into the courtyard, through the little shanty that served as an entrance. Knocking on the door, she called out to the elderly lady. From within she heard sharp raised voices and banging kettles in the kitchen. At last Revieka, huffing and puffing, opened the door. "Ah, Jessie," she smiled wearily. "Hi, sista just." Motioning to a chair, she mopped the sweat off her brow and closed the door after her visitor. Jessie took a seat behind the slightly greasy table and cleared her throat against the bitter smell of vinegar and horseradish. "Mulțumesc. And how are you today?" She noticed that the old lady was bent over a little more than usual. "Ah, it is hard," Revieka answered. "My shoulders hurt me, and my back and my feet. I am old and wish I could die." "I am sorry," Jessie sympathized. She knew it wasn't just her joint pain that weighed the dear lady down. Her husband, a devout Orthodox who had a paid position in the church, gave her much trouble about her faith. Her son, daughter-in-law, and grandson quarreled with her. Besides her brother, who was a member of the Mennonite church, she was the only one of her family who was a Christian. "But I thank God he is with me," Revieka added after a while. "Do you want me to rub your shoulders?" Jessie asked. Yes. Come this way." Jessie followed the woman into the dimly lit salon, where 3 couches, arranged in an L shape against the wall, served as their beds at night. Pulling the curtain shut in the doorway, Revieka allowed Jessie to massage biofreeze onto her shoulders. It had been a gift from Ruth, the bishop's wife. Gently, Jessie ran her hands over and over, letting the cream soak in. Revieka's shoulders were very tight. Lumps from hard labor and arthritis caused the muscles to be unbearably sore. When the massage was completed, Jessie hugged her friend and followed her into the bathroom. Revieka held the towel, a custom for the hostess to do for the guest. It was, by this time, about 5:30 in the evening, and Jessie knew she must get home. Revieka walked her to the gate and opened it, chatting with her all the way. "Napte buna," Jessie called in parting before the gate closed. When she got home, Jessie heard voices in the kitchen. The slightly coarse voice was very familiar, one she heard almost every day. "Oh dear, it's Adriana," she thought. Adriana was a beggar lady in the town of Poltonish. Everyone knew that she was a gypsy and an ungodly woman. Her 2 skinny little boys had as bad language as their mother, who took them begging, repeatedly asking money from the missionaries and begging food from everyone. She always invented a new story of her woes. But the villagers confirmed that most of them were lies. Jessie lowered her heavy backpack onto the floor of her room and locked her door before returning downstairs. When she entered the kitchen, she saw Adriana sitting in a chair, trying to look very ill. She bent over in a fit of coughing. Angela, the wife of the missionary with whom Jessie was staying, stirred a kettle of soup on the stove. "Oh," Adriana moaned, "this cough is terrible. I must have money for my medicine tonight. You see, the doctor told me he would deliver it to me tomorrow morning for no payment. But I must have it tonight." and I need— Ah, Jessie! Upon catching sight of the young teacher, her face brightened, and Jessie could read hope on her face. You see, she continued, cutting herself off to cough. My doctor, she gasped, told me that I must have this medicine because I have very bad asthma. I have not slept for 2 nights. I must have money for the medicine. If I do not have this medicine, my asthma will be worse, and— She broke into another storm of coughing. I see. Well, too bad, Jessie nodded, trying to hide her smirk. But you said your doctor will deliver it to you tomorrow, free of charge. Can't you wait for it till tomorrow? Oh, no. That is just the problem. I cannot wait. I must have the money, because if I do not, my asthma will be worse, and something terrible will happen to my boys. And then who will feed them? Who will take care of them? Motherless, fatherless, poor little things. I must— Coughing seized her again. Clearly, the woman did not understand what asthma was. Well, I do sympathize, Jessie told Adriana. You see, my sister has asthma. What we do when she is under an attack is to peel a lemon and put the lemon to her nose. She sniffs it deeply, and it helps a great deal. Also, drinking a cup of mint tea makes the asthma stop. Adriana had stopped coughing as Jessie spoke and listened intently. You say a mint tea and a lemon? She asked. Yes. Also, what is very good for any kind of breathing problem, cold, pneumonia, asthma, anything, is garlic tea. You peel and chop about 4 cloves of garlic and boil it in a pot of water. Then you drink it. Adriana listened and tried to look glad. I see. So I put in garlic? Yes. Drink the tea 2 times a day. That should clear you up pretty well. Ah, Adriana's face was bright with exaggerated relief. Thank you very much. Yes, I will do that. And the money? No, Jessie explained with a patient smile. This does not cost money at all. We can give you garlic. Then you go right home and drink the tea. Yes, of course. Adriana could see that she was losing her case about the money, but wasn't sure how to gain it back. It is— She began to cough again. You see, she wheezed, it is a very bad cough, and— Yes, well, perhaps you had better just step outside, Jessie said, firmly taking her elbow and guiding her to the door. The fresh air helps a lot. Now, just breathe deeply. When Jessie returned inside, Angela was giggling furiously. Thank you. I wasn't sure what to do for her. I do feel sorry for her not having a husband to care for her. Yes, but she also likes to tell everyone that she smokes on the money that the missionaries give her, replied Jessie wryly. And a cough like that can come from not having cigarettes for a couple days. Really? Angela's mouth quirked crookedly. Yes, you can even have a few sleepless nights, Jessie added. The two laughed, albeit rather pityingly, at poor Adriana's antics. 2 weeks passed. One morning, Jessie rose as the first streams of light were shining on the horizon. As the household slept on, she softly padded downstairs and entered the kitchen. Frying her traditional breakfast of mamaliga and sheep cheese, she sat down at the table to eat. Just then she heard the door close quietly. In the darkness, she made out the tiptoeing form of a woman. "Who is that?" Jessie asked, just loud enough to startle the intruder. The woman jumped. The dim light of the kitchen sink bulb revealed Adriana. Tittering nervously, Adriana nodded her head. "Buona diminiata, Jessie," she said. "I saw the gate was open, so I thought Owen was awake." "No, Owen is not awake right now." "Oh." She knit her brow in perplexity. Then her face brightened, and she pointed to Jessie's plate of food. "I need food for my boys. You can get some?" "What do you want?" Adriana named off 7 or 8 items in Romanian. Some of the words Jessie had not yet learned, but among them she caught bread, eggs, and cheese. Opening the pantry door, Jessie noticed that the egg carton was empty. "No eggs, I am sorry." "Oh." "Bread?" Jessie took the half-eaten loaf of bread and held it out. "Cheese?" Jessie removed the large bulk of white cheese from the refrigerator and sliced off 2 half-inch hunks. Adriana folded the cheese and the bread together. "For my boys to eat." "Thank you." She bowed herself out of the house. Shaking her head, Jessie finished her breakfast and readied herself for school. Alina was missing from school that day, so there would be no English lessons that afternoon. With 2 free hours at her disposal, Jessie pondered what she should do. A winding dirt road, which lay 500 feet away from the church house, led to the home of one of Jessie's friends. Gabi, Georgiana's mother, was a young woman, only 4 or 5 years older than Jessie. Marrying at 13 years old, she bore Georgiana a year later. Hardships accosted her for many years. Her husband was not always faithful to her. Her mother-in-law, an immoral woman in her 60s, came in often to yell and criticize Gabi. 3 more children were born before Gabi was even 25 years old. Now, her face wrinkled with care and weathered by hard work, she was often lonely. I should go see her, Jessie decided. The road was at least 2 miles long. When Jessie arrived, the children were out playing. "Is your mama in the house?" she asked. "Yes," Niku said. He quickly wound around through the muddy chicken yard to the back door and called his mother. Gabi emerged from the chicken house, a little dirty but very glad to have a friend to visit. "Ah, Jessie, come in," she cried warmly. "I am sorry Niku made you come in through the back door. He should have led you through the front. Please come in." Jessie reached down to remove her boots, as was the custom, and place them by the door. "No, no, just leave them. Come in and sit down. You must be very cold." Jessie sat on the comfortable blue couch and admired the bright blue paint on the walls. "How are you today, Gabi?" she asked. "Ah, Jessie, we are as well as we can be. The Lord is good, and we do not starve." "Is Gita going to travel again?" Jessie had heard that in the past, Gita had taken wagon loads of goods and peddled them in other countries. During these trips, he was gone for 6 months at a time. "Maybe he will again. I don't know. It is very hard for him to have work here. We often have not much food. So many children, and he complains that he does not want to hear them when he wakes up in the morning, so he comes to sleep in here instead of in our room. And his mother comes and argues with me and is bad for the children. Sometimes I don't know what to do. And Gita watches the TV, and the children want to as well. Oh, how do I stop them?" Her face looked sad and wan. Jessie looked at the little one cuddling in the crook of her mother's arm. She could be in Gabi's place. Oh, Gabi, I am sorry. But God will help you and provide for you. Just keep trusting Him. Gabi's face brightened. Yes, we trust Him. Sora Marjuala is always saying this, and she thanks and praises God for everything. She is such an example. Jessie smiled and thought with fondness of the invalid lady in the church. Marjuala and her husband had been hit by a train 16 years ago. Her husband died, and she was paralyzed from her waist down. Yet she was more active and vivacious than any invalid Jessie knew of, except her own mother. Marjuala refused to complain, but constantly praised the Lord. She washed laundry by hand, baked bread, and did everything from her bed. She also raised 4 little grandchildren, whose mothers were continually out with their boyfriends. Such sad situations. And yet Jessie knew that Jesus' gems shone brighter because of the darkness of their family members. The two parted as evening shadows drew about the outside world. "Good night," Jessie called to Gabi. Gabi smiled and waved. The night creatures sang and chirped as Jessie walked through the darkness. Here she was not afraid to walk in the dark, like in America. Yes, sometimes there were bad people, but to walk at night was so common it was hardly dangerous. Jessie compared the situations of the many homes she visited. Poor, all of them. Yet it was the people's hearts that made the difference. Some were extremely grateful, like Gabi, and never expected the generosity that was bestowed on her. Others lived for handouts and would not help themselves. Still others were so downtrodden by their circumstances that they could see no way out, and their only hope was from the mission. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. The age-old command truly is a standard for today. No matter how needy or self-sufficient someone is, the Bible commands are still the same. Give to every man that asks, and have mercy from the heart. Gospel Tidings Letter for February. Salutar unumile Dominuloi nostru Isus Christos. Since February is such a short month, my letter will be short as well. Sorry for the lack of excitement. February, I think, was evenly divided between winter and spring weather. The first 2 weeks were shivery and cold, though no snow brightened it. We were quite thankful for our coats. At the head of the 3rd week, the sun turned its warm face to us and woke the spring flowers and bright green grass. By the last week of February, all the villagers were tilling their gardens and beginning to plant. The sun was quite delicious. I must admit that I was a little skeptical about an early spring, remembering previous years when winter had a last hurrah. Brother Joe, Sister Ruth, and Francie arrived February 8th, having spent a few days in Bucharest to surprise Barbie before they came. Oh, it was good to have them here again. Of course, everyone wanted them to come to dinner at once, and their days were quite full. The week after they arrived, Brother Joe, with some brothers, drove back to Bucharest to assist in the completion of a house for Brother Lascar and his family. The project was done in 3 days, thanks to their efficiency. Last month, I mentioned Unca's cousin Eunice, who was hospitalized with a brain tumor. They completed a surgery for her at the beginning of February. The next week or 2 were rather critical because they were not sure if she would survive. But slowly she has begun to revive and heal, thanks to everyone's prayers. Please continue to pray for her recovery. In the middle of February, the youth from Suceava came to visit again. They arrived at 4 o'clock on a Friday morning and spent the weekend with us. The youth took a trip to Lipova to see the ruins of a castle or refuge there. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was foggy when we arrived, so the place seemed ethereal and wrapped in suspense. The rugged stone walls, I am sure, could tell some blood-chilling stories. It sits on top of a steep hill, mostly hidden from the vantage point of the road. At the top there is a stone wall surrounding the fortress, which has crumbled in time. A flat place with portals in the front looks like it could have been a drawbridge. 4 watchtowers still stand strong and erect on the corners of the ruins. Treading the narrow footpath, I climbed inside through a crumbled wall and stood immediately in the middle of a vast courtyard. Straight ahead is a tall tower, with apertures just big enough for weapons to poke through. Across the snowy courtyard, I bent through a minuscule doorway. In the ceiling was the entry to a secret stairway, which led to the second story and the watchtowers. I believe the stairway was only admissible by way of a ladder. One of the boys was brave enough to venture to the top, at least 50 feet up, much to the discomfiture of his girlfriend. Back in the courtyard, an imposing 50-foot-tall cross shields a chapel. Carved into the walls of the chapel are hollow shelves for shrines, and one of the windows overlooks a great lake below the hill. I walked the diameter of the castle, enjoying the wonderful view of woodland, the lake, and the village below, wrapped in fog. Letting my mind wander, I pondered the Middle Ages, when the original dwellers had lived. After a picnic lunch, we returned to Paltanish and played games in the evening. In the middle of the month was hot lunch for the children. Sister Gabi provided mouth-watering sarmale this time, a special treat, and we had a chocolate cake for dessert. Joe, Ruth, and Francie also joined us at school. The children relish hot lunch days, especially since they can have 15 minutes of extra playtime. Please continue to pray for us. Sister Revieka, Ili's sister, has been having a lot of pain lately, as well as problems with her eyes. Please pray for the Lord's grace and help for her. May the Lord's work be done here and all over the world. With love and prayers, Jessie Ann. This has been Once Upon a School Day, a memoir, written by Anne, narrated by Wendy Almeida. Copyright 2014 by Jessie A. Lee. Production copyright 2015 by Jessie A. Lee.